You have probably eaten a bag of chips without thinking twice about who made it. Maybe during a movie night, maybe during a road trip, maybe just because you were bored and hungry. But behind those bright, colorful bags is a story filled with ambition, rivalry, billion-dollar decisions, health controversies, and moments where one of the biggest snack companies in the world almost lost control of its own empire. This is the story of Frito Lay, the company that turned salty snacks into a global obsession, and the reason your grocery store shelves may never look the same again. Back in the early 1930s, America was struggling through the Great Depression. People were losing jobs, businesses were collapsing, and families were trying to survive on almost nothing. But in the middle of all that chaos, a young man named Charles Elmer Doolin saw opportunity in something surprisingly simple: corn chips. Legend says Doolin bought a small recipe for fried corn chips from a man in San Antonio, Texas. The deal included a recipe, a handheld potato ricer, and a few customer accounts. It cost him only $100, which, even back then, was not exactly a huge amount for starting a business. But what happened next would change snack food forever. Doolin started making chips with his mother in the family kitchen. Imagine that for a second. One of the largest snack empires in history, literally beginning with homemade chips cooked in a tiny kitchen. No giant factories, no massive marketing campaigns, just a small dream and a lot of determination. The company became known as Fritos, and surprisingly, people loved them. They were crunchy, salty, cheap, and addictive. Exactly the kind of comfort food Americans wanted during difficult times. But there was one problem: distribution. This is where another key figure enters the story. Herman Lay. Herman Lay was a traveling salesman from Tennessee who sold potato chips out of the trunk of his car. And honestly, that image says everything about the early snack business. There was no glamour, no billion-dollar corporate strategy, just hardworking people trying to convince stores to carry their products. Lay understood something most companies at the time did not. Snacks were emotional. People did not just eat chips because they were hungry. They ate them because they felt good. And that insight turned out to be incredibly powerful. By the 1940s, Lay had built a successful potato chip company, and eventually, he crossed paths with Doolin. Both men realized something important. Together, they could dominate the snack world. So in 1961, Fritos and the Lay Company merged, creating Frito Lay. At first, the merger seemed almost too perfect. Fritos had strong corn-based snacks. Lay had powerful potato chip distribution. Together, they could cover grocery shelves from top to bottom, and they moved fast. The company expanded aggressively across America. Television advertising exploded. Colorful packaging became more recognizable, and suddenly snacks were not just food anymore, they were part of culture. Then came another major turning point. In 1965, Frito Lay merged with Pepsi-Cola to form PepsiCo. This was huge. Now snacks and soft drinks were connected under one giant company, and if you think about it, it was kind of genius. People who bought chips often bought soda too. The combination created one of the most powerful food and beverage systems in the world, and for a while, it worked perfectly. The rise of Frito Lay during the 70s and 80s was almost unbelievable. Doritos exploded in popularity. Cheetos became iconic. Ruffles became a household name. And suddenly, Frito Lay products were everywhere. Schools, gas stations, sports events, vending machines, supermarkets. The company mastered something incredibly important: convenience. They made snacks available anytime and anywhere. And honestly, that changed eating habits forever. But it was not just about availability. Frito Lay became a marketing machine. Their ads were funny, memorable, and smart. Mascots became cultural icons, and the company constantly experimented with new flavors to keep people curious. One month it was spicy nacho cheese, the next month it was barbecue, then sour cream and onion. Consumers never got bored, and while competitors struggled to keep up, Frito Lay just kept growing. Factories became larger, distribution systems became faster, and PepsiCo poured massive resources into expanding the brand worldwide. By the 1990s, Frito Lay was dominating the snack industry so completely that smaller companies barely had room to breathe. It almost felt unstoppable. But things did not stay that way. Success created a new problem: health concerns. People started asking uncomfortable questions. Why were snack foods becoming so addictive? Why were obesity rates climbing? How much salt and fat were companies putting into these products? And suddenly, Frito Lay found itself in the middle of a growing cultural backlash. This is where everything changed. In the late 1990s and early 2000s, America became obsessed with healthier eating. Documentaries started criticizing processed food companies. Nutrition experts warned about excessive sodium and artificial ingredients, and parents became more cautious about what their children were eating. For a company built on salty snacks, this was dangerous. Frito Lay realized consumers were beginning to feel guilty about eating chips. And guilt is bad for business. So the company tried something ambitious. They launched healthier alternatives. Baked chips became heavily promoted. Reduced fat products appeared everywhere. And then came one of the most famous failures in snack history: Wow Chips. Now, if you were around during that time, you probably remember the hype. These chips used a fat substitute called olestra, which promised the taste of regular chips without the calories from fat. It sounded revolutionary. People were excited. Frito Lay pushed the product hard. Stores filled shelves with Wow Chips. Advertising was everywhere. And then the complaints started. Customers reported stomach problems, digestive issues, and embarrassing side effects that quickly became the subject of jokes across America. The media had a field day. Late-night comedians mocked the product relentlessly. Consumers lost trust almost overnight. And suddenly one of the biggest companies in the world looked completely out of touch. What happened next was shocking. The backlash became so intense that the product basically collapsed. Frito Lay had spent huge amounts of money promoting Wow Chips, only to watch the brand become a punchline. It was one of those moments where people realized even giant corporations could make massive mistakes. And honestly, the company needed a reset. So instead of forcing health products consumers did not trust, Frito Lay changed strategy. They focused on balance. Instead of pretending chips were healthy food, they leaned back into flavor, fun, and moderation. At the same time, they quietly improved ingredients, reduced trans fats, experimented with portion control packaging, and expanded into slightly healthier snack categories without abandoning their core identity. It was a smarter move. Because the truth is, most people were not looking for perfect health food when buying chips. They just wanted snacks that felt enjoyable without feeling completely terrible afterward. And for a while, the strategy worked brilliantly. Frito Lay regained momentum. Sales climbed again. Brands like Doritos became even bigger. Through clever marketing and partnerships with celebrities and sports leagues, Cheetos developed a strange, almost cult-like popularity online. Even social media helped the company stay culturally relevant. Then another challenge appeared: competition from changing consumer habits. This time the threat was different. People were not just worried about calories anymore. Now consumers wanted organic products, natural ingredients, fewer preservatives, and more transparency from companies. Smaller brands began presenting themselves as authentic alternatives to giant corporations. Suddenly, companies selling kettle-cooked chips and organic popcorn started stealing attention, and younger consumers especially seemed suspicious of massive food companies. Frito Lay had to adapt again. The company began acquiring and promoting brands that looked healthier and more natural. They expanded into multigrain snacks, vegetable chips, protein-focused products, and premium snack lines. But critics argued the company was just rebranding processed food with healthier-sounding labels. And honestly, that criticism never fully disappeared. There was also growing controversy around labor conditions and environmental impact. Workers at some facilities complained about long hours and difficult working conditions. Environmental activists criticized the amount of plastic packaging generated by snack products. And people started asking bigger questions about the food industry itself. How much responsibility should companies have for public health? How much waste is created just for convenience snacks? Can billion-dollar corporations really care about wellness if their profits depend on addictive foods? These questions put Frito Lay in an uncomfortable position because no matter how successful the company became, there was always tension between profit and responsibility. Still, the company kept moving forward, and this is the part I personally find fascinating. Frito Lay somehow managed to survive controversies that could have seriously damaged other brands. Why? Because they understood something deeply psychological about consumers. People do not just buy chips for taste. They buy familiarity, memories, comfort. Think about it. How many childhood memories involve snacks, school lunches, family parties, road trips, movie nights, sports games? Frito Lay products became connected to emotional moments in people's lives. And that emotional connection made the brand incredibly resilient. Even when consumers criticized processed foods, many still kept buying chips. It is honestly one of the strangest contradictions in modern culture. People know snacks are not exactly healthy, yet they remain deeply attached to them, and Frito Lay used that attachment masterfully. The company constantly reinvented flavors to stay exciting. Limited edition products created hype. Crossovers with fast food chains generated curiosity. Social media campaigns kept younger audiences engaged. And while some competitors faded away, Frito Lay stayed dominant. Then came the pandemic, and surprisingly, the company experienced another huge surge. When lockdowns began, people started buying comfort food in massive quantities. Snack sales exploded. Consumers stuck at home wanted easy, familiar foods. And once again, Frito Lay was perfectly positioned. Factories worked overtime to meet demand. Store shelves emptied quickly. And PepsiCo reported strong snack growth, while many other industries struggled. But even that period came with complications. Supply chain issues created shortages. Ingredient costs increased. Transportation became more expensive. Inflation started affecting consumers, and suddenly people began paying more attention to food prices. This created another challenge for Frito Lay. How do you keep profits high without making consumers angry about rising prices? The answer was subtle: smaller package sizes, careful pricing strategies, premium flavored products, and stronger international expansion. Some consumers noticed their chip bags seemed smaller than before. Others joked that half the bag was air, and honestly, those complaints became part of internet culture. But despite all the criticism, people kept buying the products. That says a lot about the power of brand loyalty today. Frito Lay is still one of the most dominant snack companies on earth. Its products are sold in countless countries. Its distribution system is incredibly advanced, and its influence on global eating habits is massive. But the company also faces bigger questions than ever before. Health trends continue evolving. Governments in some countries are considering stricter food regulations. Environmental pressure is growing, and younger consumers are becoming more selective about ingredients and corporate ethics. At the same time, artificial intelligence and data analysis are transforming marketing. Companies can now study consumer behavior in ways that would have sounded like science fiction decades ago. Frito Lay is using that technology aggressively. They track buying patterns, test flavors rapidly, analyze social media trends, and personalize advertising more precisely than ever. Which honestly raises another interesting question. Are we choosing snacks freely? Or are companies becoming incredibly skilled at influencing our cravings? Because when you really look at the story of Frito Lay, it is not just about chips. It is about psychology, marketing, convenience, culture, and the evolution of modern consumer habits. The company helped create a world where snacks became normal at almost every moment of the day. And whether that is a good thing or not, probably depends on who you ask. Some people see Frito Lay as an innovative business success story. Others see it as part of a larger processed food problem affecting public health worldwide. And maybe both sides are right. That is what makes the story so interesting. It is not black and white. It is complicated. On one hand, you have incredible entrepreneurship. Two men building snack businesses from almost nothing during difficult times. You have innovation, marketing brilliance, and one of the most efficient distribution systems ever created. On the other hand, you have concerns about nutrition, consumer manipulation, packaging waste, and corporate power. And somehow all those contradictions exist inside the same company. But maybe the most surprising thing about Frito Lay is how adaptable it has been. Every time the world changed, the company changed too. When television became powerful, they mastered advertising. When convenience culture exploded, they expanded distribution. When health concerns grew, they introduced baked and lower-fat options. When social media changed marketing, they embraced internet culture. Even after major failures like Wow Chips, they recovered. That ability to adapt may be the real secret behind the company's survival, because many businesses rise quickly, but very few survive decades of changing consumer behavior. Frito Lay did. And not only did it survive, it became part of everyday life for millions of people. Whether you love the company or criticize it, its impact is impossible to ignore. The next time you walk through a grocery store, pay attention to the snack aisle. Look at how much space is controlled by one company. Look at how many flavors exist. Look at how carefully the packaging is designed to grab your attention. None of that happened by accident. It was built through decades of experimentation, risk-taking, victories, failures, and relentless marketing. And honestly, there is something almost incredible about the fact that a small corn chip recipe bought for $100 turned into a global empire worth billions. But maybe the most important question is this: what happens next? Can Frito Lay continue dominating in a world becoming more health conscious? Will younger consumers stay loyal to traditional snack brands? Can giant food companies truly become sustainable without hurting profits? Or are we heading toward another major turning point for the snack industry? Because history shows something very clearly: no company stays untouchable forever, not even giants. And if the rise and fall cycles of Frito Lay teach us anything, it is that success can disappear faster than most people expect. One bad product launch, one major health controversy, one cultural shift, and suddenly even the strongest brands can feel vulnerable. Still, somehow Frito Lay keeps finding ways to survive. Maybe that is because snacks are more emotional than we realize. Or maybe the company simply understands consumers better than almost anyone else. Either way, the story is far from over. And honestly, I think the next chapter could end up being even more dramatic than the last. So what do you think? Is Frito Lay one of the greatest business success stories ever created? Or has the company become too powerful and too dependent on unhealthy habits? Let me know your thoughts in the comments.